we really, what differentiates us from other organizations like ours around the country, and there's not a lot of them, I'm happy to say, I think, is really the ability for us to bring different parties together and to the table. And on the next slide, you'll see, we're really made up of private sector companies. As a business organization, we are funded primarily by membership from private sector companies. And this on the screen here is just a snapshot of the types of companies we work with. But I think what's interesting for us is you'll see we have large global companies like ENGIE and EDF Renewables and others, but also small companies that you'll hear from today that are doing business here in San Diego. And so our reach is local, but also global at the same time. Equally as important to our organization is our partnerships with public sector members. That includes the military, that includes the port, the airport, our universities, Scripps Institution of Oceanography, our local IOU, SDG&E, and others. We actually see and we know the role that these public sector partners play in the advancement of our mission and really the advancement of this industry as a whole. And then also it's key that we work with other community partners that are doing work in the same space. There's a whole list of them, but I just wanted to point out here a few that we're working with that are important to not only what we're doing here in California, not only what we're doing here in San Diego, but beyond that. The San Diego Urban Sustainability Coalition is a new nonprofit that I'm fortunate to sit on the board of, really focused on energy equity and really leading the energy equity conversation here in San Diego. You'll hear from Scott Anders at EPIC, but really fortunate for us to house one of the leading policy centers on energy here in San Diego and at USD, and Scott's leading those efforts. Grid Alternatives is an increasingly important partner of ours, specifically around the workforce development that they do. So they work with us, the Center for Sustainable Energy, whom I know you know well, as well as Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. And as I talk about in our next slide, some of our regional highlights, and I think really what differentiates the San Diego region for really regions all over the world is our adjacent proximity to Imperial County and the large scale renewable resources that brings into the region. You'll see here, and I won't read through all those or all these, but in San Diego alone, the Cleantech industry employs about 40,000 people, has about a $7.1 billion impact on our regional economy. I'll note that these are pre-COVID numbers. My hope is that we're actually in the process right now of updating these numbers, and we'll have those out at the end of October. I hope that these numbers will even increase kind of during this COVID pandemic. You'll see and hear from some of our entrepreneurs and Marty that the energy industry, in particular the energy entrepreneur sector, is doing really well given the uncertainty of these times. I think one of our big accolades right now is we are home to the world's largest battery storage project, thanks to LS Power and the East Otay Mesa Energy Storage Project that just went online last month. We are now home to the world's largest battery storage project. This is the second time we've been able to carry this achievement, and I assume come next week, maybe the week after, that might be different as more and more battery storage projects come online. And I think what we see here locally and throughout the state with the rolling blackouts that we faced a couple of weeks ago, the role of energy storage and the certainty of our grid and the stability of our grid is becoming increasingly important. We are home to the #2 most rooftop solar installations. That large city just to the north of us, we don't have to call them by name. We go back and forth on an almost annual basis of who has more rooftop solar installations. They're leading the charge right now, pun intended, but we hope to take over the reins of that. No surprise, electric vehicle deployment in San Diego is as important as it is anywhere else in California. We've got close to 50,000 electric vehicles on the ground. We hope those numbers will continue to rise as more and more charging infrastructure is put in place. And obviously through SDG&E and some of the work that's being done by entrepreneurs, we hope that that number continues to rise. I think no surprise, we generate almost 50% of our energy here locally from renewable energy sources, thanks to the work of SDG&E, who is often named one of the most innovative utilities. But also we've got the adoption of 2 local CCAs here, community choice energy programs. And so our region is moving toward 100% renewable energy. And we, again, as a region, see that as market certainty and the opportunity to drive more economic development and more renewable energy development from our region. I noted earlier Imperial Valley, and Jason will talk about the importance of Imperial Valley later as it relates to our overall energy ecosystem. Again, not just here in San Diego, but in California. And then just two notes. I mean, I think Scott will talk about the amazing work that USD is doing, but from a UCSD perspective, no surprise, they continue to develop one of the world's most renowned advanced microgrids, thanks large in part to investments made by the California Energy Commission. And finally, you know, I think none of this would be really possible, and we wouldn't really be having a lot of these conversations if it wasn't for the work of Scripps Institution of Oceanography and what they're doing. You know, here in San Diego, we no longer debate facts around science and around climate science. Many of us live next door to climate scientists. And so for us, this conversation has just become part of kind of the framework and kind of the fabric that's been woven throughout the San Diego region. So we monitor the growth of this industry and we keep an eye on it very closely. And thanks to our members, thanks to the public sector agencies, thanks to private sector companies, thanks to our partners, we continue to see this industry grow here in San Diego. Next slide, Zach. So this is the letter that I alluded to earlier, and I won't read this, and you can tilt your head to the left if you want to read it. We'll obviously share this. But what we really see here in San Diego, that the growth of our industry, and specifically our renewable energy industry, is really part of the fabric of this community. We value innovation here, we value sustainability, we value collaboration, and our stakeholders are really help driving this forward. And we really think that this is not only shaping what we're doing here in San Diego, but also in California, also at a national level, and because of the work of so many, really at a global level. And we really see the energy industry not being in conflict with regulation. We think the work that you're doing, Vice Chair, the work that our regulatory agencies and the work that our legislature is doing, as well as the work that our local agencies are doing, they're really setting clear and aggressive goals for us to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And we've seen again here locally that the industry has responded to that and resulted in progress and environmental benefits, but also economic benefits as well. So that's kind of my quick overview of who we are at Cleantech San Diego and the work that we're doing. And as Marty said earlier, the biggest initiative for us to date is the Southern California Energy Innovation Network. And we are a proud partner of this program, not just here locally, but with the other energy ecosystems around the state. And really thanks to the leadership of the California Energy Commission for funding these types of initiatives. We saw in the past so often R&D dollars were going into just research and development at the universities. And we had advocated for quite some time that we really start to think about how we're supporting the next wave of energy entrepreneurs in order to continue our economic progress for environmental sustainability. And I don't think that there's any program around the country that does this more than what has been established by the CEC. And before I turn it over to Marty, I think Vice Chair, you said something earlier about staff being fantastic, and especially the CEC staff. I'll brag about my own staff in just a minute and my own colleagues, but I will say, you know, we have worked on DOE grants, we have worked on EDA grants, we've worked on SBA grants, we've worked on California Workforce Development grants, we've worked on ARA grants, and we have never had a staff as really as fine as the Energy Commission staff, from Eleanor to Eric to Lori to everyone involved. Anthony, our relationship with the CEC as it relates to this program is really unlike no other. And I'm not saying that because they're all on the phone. I'm saying that because we mean it. This project and this process has been honestly easy for us, from the billing to the invoicing to all of it. And we've just had an amazing working relationship with the CEC. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that on the call this morning. So thank you for all that you've done, all the staff at CEC. I think this project across the state is making significant strides. And then on that end, I have to thank my own colleagues and Marty and Zach and Shannon. We work really hard to make sure that this program is a success. And as Marty said, he's been around Cleantech San Diego since our founding. And I think when we look back on this project, this will have the largest impact in San Diego, again, not only on our environment, but on our economy. So Marty and Zach have done an amazing job of pulling this program together. I will say, I feel like it's on cruise control at this point. They'll probably disagree with me because they work so hard on it. But the types of entrepreneurs that we're bringing to the table, the types of companies that we're bringing to the table, that mentors, all that stuff has just really come together to what I believe has created just a world-class project. So I will stop there. I will turn it over to Marty. But before I do that, Vice Chair, I thank you for your time. I think the last time we spent together was on the stage at SDG&E's Environmental Champions Award several years ago. Convention Center. So just thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for all the work that the Energy Commission is doing. We are just as excited as you for the continuation of EPIC. And with that, I'll either turn it back to you or turn it back over to Marty to take it from here and to launch us on the virtual tour that he has planned for today.
Oh, well, we're looking forward to it. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you all for being such terrific partners in this space. And with that, let me turn it back to Marty and we'll jump right in.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And good morning to all. Obviously, given the current health concerns with travel and meetings, we hope that this virtual tour of the scene that we've prepared for you today will be the next best thing, maybe even a little better. We got a couple tricks up our sleeve. It's just unfortunate that you're not going to get a break from the Sacramento summer weather, and you're not going to be able to join us afterwards for a nice little lunch in Little Italy. But first off, I'd like to say congratulations and thank you to the CEC for proactively implementing policy and code that facilitates the achievement of our environmental, economic, and social goals for the state of California. And backing that up with significant investment in creating an energy innovation ecosystem, which now has become the heart of the statewide initiative, which provides the pathway to closing the gap to achieving our 2030 energy and GHG targets and beyond. And of course, we, the SCEIN, are one of the 4 regional cluster accelerators. But we're different from the other 3. We actually accept rolling applications and conduct monthly intake sessions. Instead of an annual cohort curriculum, we prepare and deliver customized service plans. And during our formal 6-month reviews with our entrepreneurs, we determine if there's a mutual benefit in continuing the engagement. And also, as a not-for-profit business association with 125 member companies spanning the academic, public, and private sectors, we have, I think, one of the most comprehensive technical advisory committees that you've got on any CEC grant program. And I'm going to show you why that's so important a bit later in the presentation. Of course, per the EPIC, we actually are supporting entrepreneurs in San Diego, Imperial, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. And next slide. And of course, per the EPIC grant guidelines, our mission is to support the entrepreneurs in accelerating commercialization of their innovations so that ultimately we can deliver benefit to our ratepayers. Our eligibility requires to have a business office in California, a presence in one of the 4 counties that we represent. You have to have a breakthrough electric energy technology, TRLs from 1 to 9. And again, but the bottom line, whatever technology it is, has to deliver California ratepayer benefits. While our parent organization, Cleantech San Diego, is the principal investigator and we're responsible for overall program management, it's our subcontracted partners who are delivering a bulk of the customized services to our entrepreneurs. For example, if our entrepreneurs need support in policy and regulatory guidance, we have subcontracts with the Center for Sustainable Energy and USD's EPIC group. Both the business schools and the engineering schools at San Diego State and UC San Diego and the engineering school at USD provide support for our entrepreneurs to do technology validation and market validation. And UC Riverside and Cal State San Marcos have more recently been brought into the fold through our I-6 grant that Zach's going to talk about a little briefly. Because a majority of our entrepreneurs are technical based, we have Connect as one of our partners to help with business acumen and developing an investor deck. And of course, the San Diego Venture Group is one of our key lifelines to the investor community. But early on, recognizing that most of these partner resources are San Diego centric, we realized that we needed to partner with the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation and the Inland Empire Economic Partnership to provide our outreach to the other 3 counties. And in fact, after 2 years of road trips to the Inland Empire, while we had little engagement, we learned that we were sitting on a big opportunity. And I'd like to turn it over to Zach Dobbin, our SCEIN program manager, to tell you what we discovered and how we're augmenting our Inland Empire strategy.
Thank you, Marty. So as we all know, the Inland Empire is a massive area. It's comprised of San Bernardino and Riverside County. In fact, if it were a state, it would be as big as South Carolina and by population, it would fall in right after Alabama. Moreover, it's a young population and a diverse population, with all of the overseas shipments arriving daily at the ports of LA and Long Beach and being trucked east for warehousing. The IE is ripe for transportation electrification and building decarbonization. We also learned that the Inland Empire is a priority target for our equity focus. There is a high level of poverty, a low level of educational achievement, and very high anticipated population growth rate for the area. Clearly, we need to raise the awareness and adoption of clean technologies that will help residents and businesses reduce their energy costs and improve air quality. In fact, the California Air Resources Board recently relocated to the city of Riverside, positioning the Inland Empire as the clean air technology hub of California. So, in 2018, we partnered with USD as the principal investigator in securing an EDA I6 grant award focused on expanding the SCEIN footprint in the Inland Empire. We hired Michael Ford to be our Inland Empire program manager, and through his first year on the ground efforts, he has been able to secure buy-in from a number of key regional organizations in creating an Inland Empire Innovation Council. We've added 2 more Inland Empire companies, Helicoid and Sea-Lion, to our SCEIN membership, and 8 more to our intake pipeline. Unfortunately, with Michael's recent departure to one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities you can't pass up, we've begun working through the final details of transferring our I6 grant responsibilities for Inland Empire Program Management to UC Riverside and their Center for Environmental Research and Technology, which we expect will further strengthen our partnership for future energy collaboration. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Marty.
Thanks, Zach. So when Eric Stokes first contacted me, he requested that we provide a virtual tour, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. In fact, it's going to be a 360-degree virtual tour. Zach and I just gave you a view from Cleantech San Diego, the principal investigator in a program manager role. Our first guest speaker is going to provide a view from the partner subcontractor vantage point. We'll have 3 representatives from our technical advisory committee share our regional stakeholder view. And then, of course, we're going to have 4 of our SCEIN entrepreneurs share how all of these resources and referrals are being coordinated to help them get new technologies into the marketplace to help our ratepayers. I'm also going to do double duty today and be your tour guide. And I'm delighted to let you know that our friends at the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System have offered to transport us across the region to where our guest speakers are located in one of their brand new New Flyer Industries battery electric buses that is part of their zero emission bus pilot. Despite the fact that all of their 40 and 60-foot buses are already compressed natural gas, their plan is to convert the entire 800 bus fleet to ZEB by 2040. So I ask you all now to hop on the bus. Please keep your virtual face masks on. And I've arranged for the big bus here so that you'll have plenty social distancing room to stay safe as we make this tour across our 4-county geography. And so our first stop on the tour is actually going to be just 5 miles north. And we'll go to the University of San Diego campus. And here at University of San Diego, it's in the Linda Vista neighborhood of San Diego. You got a beautiful view of Mission Bay and Fiesta Island in the background. And our first guest speaker is Scott Anders, who is USD's lead partner on our partner advisory committee. Scott is director of USD's EPIC program, which is the Energy Policies Initiative Center at the USD School of Law. I've asked Scott to brief you on how we initially developed our scope of work task 2 regional energy technology priorities and needs analysis, and then give you a flavor for the kind of support that his EPIC team and the Shiley Marcos School of Engineering have been providing to our entrepreneurs. So Scott, it's all yours.
Thank you, Marty. Boy, that picture of the University of San Diego campus makes me nostalgic. I haven't been there for 6 months. So thank you for that. So Zach, next slide, please. So as Marty said, I'm going to walk you through some of the work we've done to support the project and give you a flavor of kind of the services that we're providing to member companies. And so one of the first things we did as a team, as a project team, was to complete this task 2 report. And so the goal there was to assess regional energy needs and opportunities, establish regional energy technology priorities, conduct a review of state energy goals, which Marty had put on a previous slide nicely, and to create a report to provide this back to Energy Commission staff to kind of understand what our approach is and how we're focusing. Next slide, please. So one of the things we did is we conducted pretty detailed analysis looking at various aspects of the energy landscape across all the entire SCEIN territory. I'm not going to go over this, but this just kind of shows you we looked at a variety of demographic and energy related factors. Next slide, please. So one of the key parts of this task was to look at the policy framework. And so what we did is we kind of stepped back and said, well, what is California doing? And really the goal has been to reduce greenhouse gases, and that can be broken down into kind of three main tasks. We recognize that there are lots of other things going on, but in the energy space, it's really about reducing energy use, decarbonizing the energy supply, and then electrifying transportation and other loads. These are kind of the main points of California's strategy. So based on that, next slide, please. We looked at energy technology areas that fit in or supported those main goals. And so we came up with energy efficiency, renewable energy generation, and clean transportation as really direct technological supports for those three main goals. And then smart grid and energy services and energy storage is kind of cross-cutting, sort of the glue, if you will, or what brings all those three things together into a more integrated whole. So next slide. These really became the 5 technology categories that we've used in the SCEIN project, and you can see here some of the more detailed subcategories of those technologies. Next slide. So I want to tell you a little bit about the University of San Diego and its support of the SCEIN project. So I'm director of the Energy Policy Initiative Center. I like to call it the other EPIC, and we focus on regulatory and policy work. Though, just to clarify, I know we're based in the law school, but we are an interdisciplinary team with legal regulatory policy, but also engineering staff. So we have kind of a technical quantitative capability where we do kind of, as Marty talked about, a 360, we do kind of a 360 view of energy. So we really can do everything from greenhouse gas calculations and energy technology calculations to legal analysis. And then we have, and for this particular project, we are doing regulatory and policy analysis, and we'll give you some examples of what that looks like. The Shiley Marco School of Engineering, my colleagues in the engineering school are also participating in this project, and I'm going to represent some of their work, some of their great work as well in the next couple slides, but they've worked on business development, rapid prototyping, hardware design and simulation, software data and analytics. So much more of the engineering, hard technical work that some of the companies have needed. So next slide, please. So just a couple examples of the work that USD, the team at USD has done for companies. There's a company, Nuvi, which is sort of an electric vehicle smart charging company. We at EPIC help them figure out how to play in the low carbon fuel standard market. So how to generate revenue from low carbon fuel standard credits. We provided a detailed guide to participate, and that was really helpful for them to kind of get up and running and to experiment with that revenue stream. We also have worked with them to try to help them integrate and understand the Rule 21 amendment process for V2G and inverter standards. And so this is sort of emblematic of some of the work we've done to kind of help companies understand the marketplace we know that the energy space is heavily regulated. So kind of understanding how some of the nuances of that space. Next slide. This is another smart charging company, eMotorworks, which was acquired by Enel, the Enel group from Enel Energy. And so just a couple of examples here, just help them understand the CPUC SB 350 transportation electrification rulemaking, and also some of the demand response programs and how they can participate. Again, this is about helping them understand the framework they're working, but also how to potentially generate revenue. Next slide. Can Cover It is a company that makes kind of coverings for can lighting and other technologies that penetrate the roof or the ceiling of a building to try to improve their thermal performance. And so the engineering folks with a USD undergraduate researcher did some great modeling. Next slide. I'm not going to go over this, but just looked at the thermal performance change between the baseline and the can cover it that showed some improvement in the thermal resistance. And this was work that helped to kind of validate some other work that had been done at UCSD, so another partner organization in the SCEIN group. Next slide. So Primo Energy is a company that we've done quite a bit of work with, and USD has a great relationship with. And so we did a permitting and zoning analysis. They wanted to understand how the permitting and zoning process would affect their deployment of technology. And we also did some work with them on understanding how to take advantage of the investment tax credit. And so that was a project we did for them. Next slide. In addition, the engineering school has worked with Primo Energy staff on product rationalization. They actually have installed 3 of their energy plants on our USD campus. They've actually hired student interns on and to Primo Energy as a full-time job. And USD engineering faculty have helped with a Department of Energy proposal. And the next slide shows a brief video about our partnership with Primo Energy.
So we're standing in front of Primo's energy plant. So it basically combines wind and solar and outputs power as well as lighting. The energy plant will take the wind power produced by the turbine and the solar through the solar panels on the leaves, and it will store it in a battery, and then it's outputted through the USB ports as well as lighting. Everything we need for this energy plant electronics-wise is inside the bench. There are USB ports as well as outlets, so you're able to charge a wide variety of devices, and at night there's actually a light that'll turn on. What's special about the energy plant is that it's really innovative engineering encased in a beautiful structure. So a lot of time when we think of engineering, we just think of circuits or more basic elements that don't really combine the human aspect, but this really is able to combine that human aspect and be such a source of light. Not only is this a beautiful structure and such a positive light in the engineering building, but it's also become a hot spot for people to just hang out in. Primo is able to work directly with disaster relief. Our CEO actually took an energy plant to a country that was hit by a really bad hurricane, and our energy plant was the only source of power there for at least 12 hours. I was really excited about this project because as a student, I was finally able to see what we learned in the classroom come to real life. And what I loved about this project is not only is it innovative, but it's renewable, it's self-contained, and I'm able to combine my skills with my passion.
So that's a nice illustration of some of the partnerships that we've been able to form through this project. And so just real quick for just some of the faces behind the names. So Joe Cates is our staff attorney and has been doing a lot of work with these companies in the SCEIN project. Next slide. And the 3 faculty at Shiley Marco School of Engineering are Venkat Shastri, Jay Kim, and Danny Codd. And they kind of represent different aspects of some of the engineering challenges. Venkat does more kind of electrical engineering. Jay Kim is more of a data systems and analysis person, and then Danny Codd is a mechanical engineer. So among the 3 of those, plus our policy group at EPIC, we've been able to provide some pretty vital services for the companies coming through SCEIN. So Marty, with that, I'll kick it back to you. What's our next stop?
Oh, Marty, you're muted there.
Thank you, Scott. We obviously have a very busy tour, and we're now going to segue into the tour of the entrepreneur sites. And just by way of background, we actually started launching our entrepreneur intake sessions in January 2017. Next slide. We've actually had 201 applications to the SCEIN program since it was launched, We've conducted 30 entrepreneur intake sessions where 58 pre-screened eligible companies have presented, 47 of which have been accepted into the program. During the January to June 2020 period, we actually had a record high 21 new applications to the SCEIN, of which 10 of the companies were qualified. So that now creates for us our largest pipeline of qualified startups that we've had since launch. We currently have 34 active members, 26 full members, and 8 provisional members that we've got. And if you see on the next slide here, using that same 5-block chart that shows our primary energy technologies that we've identified as being required by the state and for us to achieve our targets. Due to time constraints, which actually are getting even greater as we're a little bit over time right now, I knew we wouldn't be able to do 5 presentations. So figuring that you at the CEC have probably seen energy storage presentations of about every flavor by now, we've decided to select 4 of our different SCEIN companies in 4 of the other energy technology areas. And I think you'll find the 4 of these companies that we've chosen have a unique technology or business model for how they're going to go ahead. So if we go to the next slide, I am going to ask you all to hop back on the bus. We're now going to travel about 13 miles north to Sorrento Mesa area of San Diego. This is actually one of the center of gravities for biotech companies in San Diego, but it's not surprising that that's where Oriana Bretschker and Aquacycl team found a home to launch their bioelectrochemical water treatment technology that actually produces energy. So welcome to Aquacycl, and I'd like to introduce Oriana Bretschker.
Hi, thanks so much. Welcome to Aquacycl digitally. It's my pleasure to share a bit with you about what we're doing. So we founded Aquacycl in November of 2016, and we became a SCEIN company in 2018, and it's been a very exciting journey all the way through. Next slide, please. So what we address, we sit right at that water and energy nexus. 20% of California's energy budget is associated with water. 10% of that is water heating. And the remainder of that is really in water treatment and water movement. And in Southern California, of course, we import a majority of our water, and it's very important for us to be able to be very efficient in our water reuse. Our technology at Aquacycl specifically addresses some of the major problems that are associated with food and beverage production. So we talk about ultra high strength wastewaters. And when I say high strength or ultra high strength, I'm talking about concentrations of carbon that are about 100 times to 1,000 times more concentrated in carbon than what you see in a typical city sewer. Now, this concentration is extremely energy rich, right? And so we've developed a technology to be able to harness that as DC power. Now, the picture you're seeing is my friend Erica. She's an environmental manager at Mars, specifically Mars Pet Care. But she introduced me to these high strength wastewaters and the challenges that her organization faces, as well as a lot of other organizations like Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola, Nestle, all folks who produce their products throughout California and throughout the world. Now, they generate these high strength wastewaters. Typically what they do is they'll send to a sewer if they're permitted to do so. Not every municipality lets them because these concentrations are so high. Or they have to truck these wastewaters off-site and land apply them. So that either goes to private landfill or to public landfill. But neither one of those solutions are particularly sustainable. And so that's where Aquacycl comes in. Next slide, please. We provide a plug and play technology that sits on a customer site. We guarantee permit compliance for their wastewater discharge. We recover energy in the process of treatment. And we provide a savings anywhere from 20 to 60% against what our customers are doing now. We've demonstrated the technology now with commercial partners such as Anheuser-Busch up in Los Angeles, with Mars Wrigley out in Tennessee, with the United States Navy on Oahu, and we've sold some systems now within the state of California in the county of San Bernardino, and we'll be rolling out a system for our first very large customer based out of one of their facilities in Fresno that's going in January of 21. We've shown that this technology is very robust in these dynamic production environments where you might have holiday shutdowns or you've got a changeover in product, which most biological treatment systems will have a big challenge with doing, but we don't. And one of the huge benefits of the tech is that we actually do real-time monitoring and remote controls. So especially in these COVID times, you're not required to have a full-time operator on site, and we can catch issues before they become real problems relative to that treatment quality. Next slide, please. And so this is what the technology is. As Marty mentioned, it's a biological system, the Bioelectrochemical Treatment Technology, or BET. And each one of those little black boxes that you see in the image there is about the size of a standard car battery. And what we do is we stack them together like Legos inside a shipping container, either a 20-foot container or a 40-foot container. And these containers then plug on site with the customer and treats the wastewater real time. Now, each one of these reactors, these BET reactors, is generating a voltage. And this happens through microbial respiration. We take naturally existing microbes already present in the wastewater that we want to treat or source from the local environment. We bring them into those boxes and they start to form biofilms or fixed films on the anode surfaces inside of each of those reactors, those little vertical cylinders you see on the breakout there. Now, because it's fixed film, this is very, very stable. That biomass doesn't leave, right? It likes to sit on that surface because it's using that surface as a way to breathe or a way to respire. In that respiration process, those microbes give up electrons. We capture those electrons, we move them across a circuit, and that's what generates DC power. We actually generate enough power to offset the energy demand of our system, and sometimes, in some situations, be a little bit energy positive. And we're not making any methane as we're doing this. We trickle charge a battery pack, and we run our systems off of that battery pack. Next slide, please. So we're starting off in food and beverage because we offer a very strong value proposition to those customers. But we can also address issues that exist within the military, pharma, as well as ultimately into distributed sewage for municipalities that may not necessarily be tied to a sewer grid or may not have the capacity for the energy requirement to treat wastewater in conventional ways. Next slide, please. And even though we are impacted by COVID, we specifically can't roll out any systems onto customer sites very easily this year. Our customers are actually growing in demand for on-site wastewater treatment. Customers like Hershey, right, they saw an increase of sales just 10% in March alone. That's a lot of chocolate and that's a lot of wastewater. And so that's what we're here to address. Next slide, please. And here's some pictures of some of the installations we've done in Tennessee, Los Angeles. We also have a system that's been in Tijuana, Mexico, treating residential sewage there since 2016. Next slide, please. We've got an awesome team. Most of us are headquartered here in San Diego. Our VP of sales is up in San Francisco. We've got folks that are really rooted in the water industry and successful entrepreneurs who've had successful exits, really helping us get to that next level. Next slide, please. And so, we've built up a $150 million pipeline over the last couple of years, just in terms, this is total project value. We operate on recurring revenue, so there's no capital expenditure for our customers. They give us a security deposit. We install the system for them, and we charge them a monthly fee for doing on-site treatment. And again, it's energy neutral on-site treatment, so there's not going to be a whole other energy bill associated with it. We are raising money, always raising money as a startup. So we're seeking $3 million for our A round. That gives us the opportunity to close $5 million in sales just this year, 10 next year, and to fully automate our production manufacturing here in California. Next slide, please. And so it's been awesome to be a part of the SCEIN program. You've heard about the great relationships that SCEIN has built with all of the universities across San Diego. We have completely taken advantage of that. I would say we've had interns from every single university within the San Diego area. Some of them we've hired as full-time staff. We are also applying to the RAMP program so we can hopefully elevate our manufacturing capacity in California quickly within these next couple of years. And the introductions across the multiple programs that CEC is funding, Blue Tech Valley, as well as the San Diego and Imperial Valley Economic Development Commissions, has really brought us connections to customers understanding our market, as well as opportunities for collaborations. And just to bring it full circle, back in my research years, when I was a PI here in San Diego at the Venter Institute, the peer program, the CEC peer program, was one of the first grants we were ever awarded. And so it's been awesome to be a part of this and to see it come full circle. Next slide, please. So with that, this is Erica in San Diego taking a ride on the Hornblower just through San Diego Harbor. So we're able to make her life easier now, and we're very excited to scale and see this company grow and provide jobs in California. Thanks.
Thank you, Ariana. Fantastic as always. Exciting to see you guys just ramping up and taking off. So we're gonna just hop right back on the bus, and we're gonna scoot up I-15 now and continue north. We're gonna go straight through Riverside County, 103 miles up to I-10, turn left, and that brings us into Ontario, San Bernardino County. Next slide. And Ontario, that's where KIGT is located. KIGT actually offers the smallest, smartest, and lowest cost light-duty EV charger, but the hardware is just the gateway to 5 revenue streams that contribute to their recurring revenue business model. And so I'm going to introduce you to Paul Francis, CEO of KIGT, who's going to tell you how they're going about it. And I think in this case, because Paul's going to try to go through a lot of slides in a short amount of time, we're going to turn control over to him.
Marty, as always, the good juju and support are always appreciated, especially from the folks at SCEIN, helping us with our mission of human habit. And so here we go. With, as Marty put, the pound for pound, smallest, smartest, most charging station for your electric car. And along our journey, when we did our first installations, we've met many customers like our friend Eve, who happens to be the project manager and property manager at the multifamily complex. You see, Eve is tasked with choosing charging stations for her residents, guests, and even herself, because she also owns an EV. And she's fully aware of all the issues that happen when you have to be a member of multiple networks and carry key fobs around. But what she learned with KIGT is that's no longer an issue. And what she found out with the thoughtful features that helped KIGT get selected for Fairplex Fairgrounds project with digital advertisements that helped him earn a little more through the Charge Ready program at Southern California Edison. And how the Port of San Diego learned through SCEIN's event last year at Cleantech San Diego Day, where we are able to have features like 4G because they happen to work better in parking structures like convention centers where networks sometimes are slow. But mainly what she really enjoyed was the simplicity of the technology and how if you do want to become a member, as the residents do at the complex, 3 simple taps, they're able to start the charge station to begin. Or not because it's government mandated, but for ease of use, we added a credit card swipe. Really just because folks like my mom or Eve, they really don't want to download another app and use all their storage up again. It's just very simple. And what she really appreciated the most is more than anything, she can earn aside from charging sessions with KIGT software. But one dirty secret we all know about, especially EV drivers, is that often charge stations don't work, especially when you look on the PlugShare app. So what she really appreciated is that KIGT is committed, like we are with a lot of our customers, to fixing charging stations within 48 hours and sending our technicians out there within 24 hours. And she knew KIGT cares, bringing her absolute joy. And so that's, the story of our friend Eve, but that sentiment has been felt with our customer pipeline. So we're really excited to say during COVID, unfortunately during tragic events, we have been growing. Through the essential nature of our industry, we have scheduled to serve and install over 500 charging stations over the next 6 months with annual recurring revenues through those 5 streams that made Eve really happy. Now, Cleantech San Diego and their stewardship has really helped guide us. As you saw in 2017, we were more like at a tech ready level 3, but now we're ready for market at a TRL 8 and 9 through their stewardship and guidance. And we're prepared to install 100,000 charging stations in the ZEV action plan states. And with those relationships, we're able to, do some of our demonstrations of our vehicle to grid hardware and how we can throttle power in real time with our software through the relationship that SCEIN has with UC Riverside, where we're connected to their microgrid and have been for a couple of years. Now, what we're excited most about is that innovation. We're about to take our talents to Hollywood. Just a block from the Hollywood Bowl, United Methodist will be installing 10 of our charging stations. Victory Baptist Church will also install some of our charging stations with their very own microgrid. But as you see, many of those members happen to receive EBT food stamps. I apologize for that. That was the sound for our team. But either way, they receive EBT benefits. And that means they often are unbanked. And when you're unbanked, you can't participate in other EV charging networks because you don't have a debit card to be part of the network. So at KIGT, if you have EBT, you charge for free. And for us, we feel that's the story of people. That's why our compact size is built for, curbside parking, because in urban communities, parking spaces are scarce. And that really matters. All right. I was looking at my time. My apologies. And so what we've been thankful for in those communities, we partner with Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator through some of the relationships that SCEIN's helped foster to create the first ever electric vehicle network training program, where a quarter of those participants were recently incarcerated. They learned how to troubleshoot and fix network issues, not high or low voltage, but software issues. And from these pool of candidates, they worked together. They figured out the basics of level 2 charging, DC fast charging, and the pandemic didn't slow us down. Thanks to the leadership at Lacey, we held it completely virtual with the cohort 2, and they were still able to get the necessary basics of what to do. Our chief tech officer was still able a virtual field trip where he showed them what our charging station looks like on the inside and how to fix the electronic components. And because of that, what we learned in a survey was that 94% of them said their next car will be an EV. And that's why our goal is to serve 20% of the 5 million consumer e-chargers that are expected to hit California roads with the goal we all have, right? And the cool thing is they have a level 2 charging station in their home, and they can upgrade to the smart charger to say, Alexa, charge my car, without additional upgrade install costs. Or they can just go portable, because at KIGT, we do believe we have the most flexible charging station as well. And through the help of Scott Anders and his group, we learned that LCF credits can earn us $6 a day. And if with legislation really favoring the technology companies, we're hoping that that can benefit also into the residential market. Thank you, Scott. Right now, we manufacture completely in California. It's really amazing that we're able to do that. And our office happens to be in one of the top zip codes in DAC communities. As you talk about in the Inland Empire, we believe in fostering growth and innovation, and our contract manufacturers are in the same situation as well. And we believe when we apply for the Ramp and Bridge grant, we can reach our full capacity at that facility to produce 4,000 a month to be able to supply the 100,000 charging stations that we want with our new slim innovation through the help of SCEIN. They've helped us get to this point, and we're really excited about what we're about to do in the marketplace. Even working with USD and some of their engineers through this partnership to then launch we're really excited about this one, level 2 plus charging station for medium duty market, because we know California is expecting to invest millions and hundreds of millions of dollars into that medium duty market. It's led by our chief tech officer, Jonathan Stevenson, our rockstar CFO who manages $50 million in their McDonald's franchises, and Brandon Aparicio, who's a chemical engineer and UCR grad. Through SCEIN has helped us, guide us with relationships with Matt Zarega from Semper Energy, Nate Pio, who's the VP of purchasing at Lewis Real Estate Development. Taj is the venture lead at Lacey, and Kiana Webb owns 5 McDonald's of her own. And through that stewardship, we were encouraged to apply for Qualcomm Small Business Accelerator, which we got in, and Elemental Accelerator, which has helped us expand to where we're installing 100 charging stations next year in Hawaii. And we are an approved vendor at McDonald's. And together with all of you and our partners in SCEIN, we believe we can reshape 100 years of human habit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. And I will publicly announce that I just lost my bet with you. I said, there's no way that you can do 47 slides in 7.5 minutes, and you did.
Oh, You know, thank you for the belief and good juju, Marty.
Absolutely, always. All right, so let's hop back in the bus. Now, the next company we're going to visit is Ivy Energy, and Ivy Energy has a software platform. So we thought it would be more interesting if we took you to see one of their projects rather than their office. So we're going to head back south, and as you can see, we're going to take the scenic route along the ocean. As we take that coastal route, as we get down to San Diego, we're going to go east to El Cajon, and we're going to go to the Park Villa apartment community. And here you can see solar on multifamily dwellings. You don't see too much of that in California, but in order to achieve the statewide targets for both energy and GHG reduction, we're not going to be able to get there without inclusion of multifamily residential dwellings. And Ivy Energy is successfully launching their virtual grid software platform that enables multi-unit building owners to monetize implementation of solar PV while sharing some of that savings with tenants. So here's Dover Janis, CEO of Ivy Energy, to tell you about this exciting win-win business model.
Thank you, Marty. And you're absolutely right. And so before I go into what we do at Ivy Energy, I want to talk a little bit about the problem that our team has identified and why we do what we do. So next slide. Nearly 12% of single-family households here in our state of California have rooftop solar. And the problem with that is about 47% of our population rents, meaning that almost half of the California ratepayers do not have access to on-site clean energy. And what's interesting about this is the same net metering benefits that exist for the single family market also exist for apartments through virtual net metering. However, there are business model complexities involved in getting these benefits to the multifamily market. The MASH and SOMA programs have helped with this, but are only making small dents. So next slide. The 2019 Title 24 mandates requiring solar for low-rise apartments was a big step in the right direction, because it's expected that about 330,000 of the next 500,000 units to come online over the next 10 years will have a solar requirement for the residents and not just common areas. Next slide. However, for the same reasons that multifamily owners have not invested in solar for their residents in the past, these technology gaps and conflicting policy confusion for this multifamily market still exists. So without our software, the only real way for a real estate owner to justify a solar expense is through virtual net metering credits and then increasing the housing cost to compensate for that solar system. The problems with this are when receiving these credits, the utility bill doesn't clarify to the residents what they're actually saving from these credits. And the credits are distributed at a fixed percentage with no correlation to usage or behavior, ultimately reducing the true value of the solar system for grid operators and making it difficult for a monetization structure to take place. As it stands today, apartment owners are unable to properly monetize solar in an equitable and consumer-friendly manner without just increasing rent. Next slide. So that's why we've been focused on this problem, and we've created a platform called Virtual Grid, and this helps existing buildings and future mandated solar buildings provide a better experience when using and sharing local clean energy. Next slide. So 31% of buildings here in California currently have many energy consumers that share roof or parking space. And it's far less expensive for these structures to install one large distributed energy system for the aggregate total load of the building compared to running thousands of dollars worth of unnecessary materials to individual load panels. So virtual grid is the much needed missing intelligence for these buildings to share clean energy amongst the users. The software understands in real time how much energy has been created locally, consumed by each user, used by a vehicle, stored or released from a battery, and soon how much was used by each appliance and when. The platform resolves this information using a rate computing engine mapped to a public tariff database and most importantly, has leading disaggregation algorithms that enable market transforming business models to share local clean energy. Next slide. Our launch market for the technology has been enabling a split incentive transaction between an asset host and a short-term user that can be backed by data and consumer-friendly guaranteed savings. When using this model effectively to help the multifamily market catch up to the single-family market in solar adoption, this will drive $5.4 billion in commercial real estate value for private clean energy investors, over $80 million in savings for residents per year, and grid infrastructure savings for aligned solar energy behavior in highly dense residential energy consumption areas. The platform can also be used for split ownership models for HOAs. It can be used as an intelligence platform for low-income solar grant distribution. And most importantly, as our state moves to community choice aggregation, our platform can also help disaggregate flexible load incentives for multifamily buildings, which have high energy density. Next slide. So these are statements that are outputs of our software, creating clarity for energy users on our platform. Our software's cost computing engine determines what a user would have spent on energy without solar. The engine uses individuality of rate plan, rate criterias, and interval usage data to ensure accuracy. And for the owners of the buildings, the computing engine has an aggregation feature that uses smart ledger functionality that can separate surplus utility charges and monitor the total shared value of a shared asset. The engine can currently remodel utility virtual net metering structures, but is designed scalable to enable and support new rate structures for multifamily buildings put in place by CCAs and utilities. Next slide. So what truly makes virtual grid transformational is not just its ability to quantify the value of shared clean energy, but its ability to disaggregate the benefits of this shared asset using logic that incentivizes grid resiliency, smarter behavior, and most importantly, equality. Virtual grid accomplishes this through proprietary load and cost algorithms that compare the effectiveness of an individual user's behavior in relation to real-time availability and value of a shared asset. Next slide. So Ivy truly creates a win-win scenario. For ratepayers, the Ivy software platform and suite of features allows a user to opt into guaranteed energy savings while understanding their usage effectiveness. And for owners, on the next slide, they're able to make a quantifiable return on investment when installing shared solar without having to increase rents and create consumer animosity or confusion. And on the next slide, we were accepted into SCEIN in 2018, and it's been a big part of our success to date. Since being accepted, we've commercialized virtual grid and signed 10 customer contracts ranging from pre-development multifamily to existing buildings. Based on our contracts, this will benefit over 600 ratepayers, and the business model can scale to hundreds of thousands. On the next slide, SCEIN has most importantly helped connect us with critical advisors. One such, we're actually working with the University of San Diego at their engineering department on a MASH program study that with one of our customers, we'll be able to quantify with real usage data, the exact financial benefits given to downstream low-income ratepayers. We see this as an opportunity to provide more intelligence to the SOMA PA team as they decide the future of the SOMA grant. We've also been working with one of our SCEIN mentors on how to deploy this technology as a tool for community choice aggregation to target and use multifamily buildings as a way to bring large clean energy assets online locally with high density flexible load opportunities with the residents' usage behavior. And so on the next slide, this is a glimpse of our team. And I know I'm close to out of time. We're out of time. So on behalf of all of us, we really appreciate the leadership of everybody on this call, from the SCEIN network or partners and from the California Energy Commission. And on behalf of everyone, we look forward to enabling a further energy equity here in California. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Dover. That was fantastic. Again, we've got to, again, in the interest of equity, in the interest of achieving the state's goals, we've got to get multi-unit dwellings into the solar game and into transportation, electrification, everything else that's involved. And your software technology is going to enable that, already doing it. So now, okay, everybody get ready. This is our longest trip of the virtual tour. It's now time to head due east on I-8, 100 miles out to Imperial, California. That's where Controlled Thermal Resources has their Hell's Kitchen geothermal project. Next slide. Need I say any more on how this project got its name? This is actually, the geothermal plant will actually be built on this land adjacent to the Salton Sea. And I told you at the beginning that there may be benefits to doing this tour as a virtual tour versus a real tour, because I don't think you all want to be with me at 105 degrees out in the Salton Sea today. So another benefit to doing a virtual tour, and I'm going to turn it over to Jason Zapla. But first, I think most of you are aware that CEC Chair Hochschild's vision is for creating a Lithium Valley Center of Excellence in the Imperial Valley Salton Sea region of the state. And the company that has secured the land at ground zero for this geothermal development with lithium extraction is Controlled Thermal Resources. And so now Jason Zapla is going to tell you where they're at and how they're going to go forward and make that happen.
Thanks, Marty. You're generous on the temperature. 105 is a cool day. It's been 118 the last couple of weeks, but yeah, thanks for the introduction and thanks for the opportunity to talk to everyone. So as Marty mentioned, we're Controlled Thermal Resources. We're developing a combined lithium and geothermal project out at the Salton Sea, utilizing the Salton Sea geothermal resource. Next slide, please. So our project is located out at the Salton Sea, and the reason it's located out there is that is where the San Andreas Fault ends, and it starts to work its way over towards another fault in the Gulf of California. And as those two faults, try to meet, it creates these series of pull-apart basins. And the northernmost pull-apart basin is located at the southeastern end of the Salton Sea geothermal field, and so that's where our project is located. It's one of the most robust geothermal fields in the world, but it's unique in the fact that it has a high concentration of lithium and other minerals of value as well. So you have a resource that's pretty unique. It's not only a great renewable energy resource, but it's one of the largest resources of lithium in North America, and also it's a large source of other valuable minerals as well. Next slide, please. So this project for us, it's being developed to satisfy two growing demands. One is the global demand for lithium, and that's being driven by the electrification of transportation. So there's a large demand for lithium to satisfy the batteries to go into EVs, and it's also being developed to satisfy the demand for renewable energy in California, and that's being supported by all of the legislation that's been going through California over the last few years. As we try to get to carbon neutrality by 2045. Next slide, please. So both of these sectors both have, or growth sectors, they both have these parallel growth trajectories as they try to meet their targets. Especially as we get closer to 2030, many places are trying to get towards 100% electrification. California hits 60% renewable in 2030. So over this next decade, we've got a lot of work to do here in the Imperial Valley and Southern California in general to meet these renewable energy targets and to produce a sustainable source of lithium to supply the EV markets. Next slide, please. So what we've done as a company is we've developed a integrated process that combines power generation technology with lithium extraction technology to produce both products, but it does it in a way that these two separate processes can leverage infrastructure from one another, and it thereby brings down the levelized cost of both processes when they're combined together. So there's a lot of merit in integrating these two processes rather than running them separately. So that's really what we've been working on and pioneering, is the integration of these two processes and creating a low-cost power and a low-cost lithium supply for the markets. And when you do this as well, you not only get the benefits of lower cost, but you actually you create what we believe to be the most sustainable source of lithium in the world. There's no other source of lithium in the world that will come from a renewable energy source like this one. Next slide, please. And it's a very large resource. The Salton Sea geothermal field has the potential to produce upwards of 3,000 megawatts of power, so that's enough electricity for almost 3 million homes. And it also has been assessed recently as having a lithium resource of close to 15 million tons, which is, when you put that in comparison to current global demand, it dwarfs global demand. Right now we require about 300,000 tons per year of lithium. We're on a trajectory to hit 1 million tons per year demand in the next few years. So you've got a very large resource there. And because of this large resource, it allows us to plan this development in modular, scalable plants so that we can leverage centralized infrastructure and thereby reduce the levelized cost of production with each subsequent plant. So what we plan to do is build 8 projects over the next 10 to 15 years and to realize the full resource. And each one of these plants will be located next to each other, and will take advantage of the centralized infrastructure and continue to bring down cost. Next slide, please. And just to compare the current supply versus what we're proposing, this is a picture of what's a salar in South America. So that you sometimes hear about the lithium triangle, which is located in the Andes in South America. So this lithium supply, it operates on evaporation ponds. What you see here is about 10,000 acres of evaporation ponds. So they take water from a relatively low water table in this area and evaporates it. So it's a really poor use of water in one of the most arid places in the world, and has a huge footprint for a relatively small output. So one of these ponds, just one single pond, that'll be about the same footprint from our project, but the same output. So in terms of physical footprint, what we're proposing is a much more sustainable, efficient uses of land and resources compared to some of the current sources of lithium. So next slide, please. And this is a picture of the other source of lithium currently, and this is a photo in Western Australia. So another source of lithium is from hard rock mines, very conventional technology. As you can see, it's not very, doesn't look very sustainable. There's a lot of issues with this in terms of its use of energy, use of land, use of reagents, its greenhouse gas impact. So for us, we think that there's a big advantage to focusing on sustainable source of lithium that can be produced from the Salton Sea. So next slide, please. And here's just for a visual. This is what a geothermal plant typically looks like. So in the future, this is what we hope lithium and other valuable minerals will be produced from facilities like this that have a relatively small footprint. They're being powered by renewable energy. The only emissions you see off of this are steam, which is coming from the hot water from the ground. So there's no greenhouse gas emissions, and a much better use of land and more sustainable system. So next slide, please. We've approached this by building up our team here in California locally. We're based in Imperial Valley. We've been hiring locally from this region and from San Diego. So we have a small team here, a small development team, and the way we carry out this project is through partnerships with other groups. So we have our partnerships in the accounting services, legal services, financial services, and then engineering and construction groups. One notable group that the CEC may be aware of is Lilac Solutions. They're a technology group based out of Oakland. They are our partner in this in terms of providing us with the lithium extraction technology that we pulled into our integrated process. So through partnerships, that's how we operate, and that's how we plan to deliver this project. Next slide, please. And so this project, it's unique, and it has a lot of benefits that go beyond just the local area, but it supports state and global initiatives. So we are located in one of the disadvantaged communities according to Cal EnviroScreen. Imperial Valley has very high unemployment. It's a disadvantaged community, and these projects will create not only the upfront construction jobs that build a facility, but these types of projects create long-term stable jobs that are allow a community to be sustainable rather than a boom and a bust type of project that you might see in some other type of mining projects or something. But these projects will allow a community to be stable and rely on these jobs to be around for a long time, and that gives them some stability. So next slide, please. And yeah, we're a SCEIN member, and we're very thankful to be a SCEIN member. We've benefited greatly from it. One of the things that was difficult for us is we were originally an Australian company that moved to California, and we came here. We didn't know anybody. And by being a part of SCEIN and working with Cleantech San Diego, we've had invaluable introductions and mentorship to help us navigate not only the local but the state environment. An introduction was made between us and Chair Hochschild, and I think that really has been extremely beneficial to us, and it's allowed us to be a part of the conversations that are shaping this concept of a lithium valley. SCEIN has been able to help us work with some of the local universities. I've been doing work with San Diego State University the last 2 years, mentoring mechanical engineering students, and we've been working with SDSU to conduct some laboratory test work that feeds into our project as well. And of course, the ongoing mentoring that comes from SCEIN, just helping us guide our business and in this new environment. Next slide, please. So with that, I just say thank you to everybody, and thanks to Marty and the team for letting us be a part of it.
Fantastic, Jason. Great update and great progress that you guys have made. And so that actually now brings us to completing our 360-degree virtual tour of the SCEIN. What we're going to do is visit with 3 of our key regional stakeholders who are Cleantech San Diego members and also participate on our TAC. I briefly mentioned, next slide. I briefly mentioned in my opening comments that our Cleantech San Diego TAC is a key to our success and really the secret sauce that makes us different from the other cluster accelerators. As soon as an entrepreneur becomes a member of the SCEIN, they gain access to all 125 CTSD members. They help with customer discovery, they help with pilot evaluations, and as you'll see, even with potential investment. And so next slide. So I've asked 3 of our TAC members, our local utility, SDG&E, a representative from the public sector, the Port of San Diego, and a representative from the private sector, EDF Renewables, to share their experience in providing support and guidance to our entrepreneur, as well as the benefits that they are deriving from their engagement with the SCEIN. So it's that time. We got to hop back on the bus. We got to take that 2-hour drive from Imperial Valley back into the Kearny Mesa area of San Diego. And poof, here we are. Zach, poof. Here we are back at the SDG&E Century Park main campus in Kearny Mesa. And I'd like to introduce our first regional stakeholder and SCEIN TAC member, Stephen Johnston of SDG&E. I think everybody's aware SDG&E has been one of the most progressive utilities in the country, an early adopter of smart meters, implemented one of the first microgrids at Borrego Springs with CEC funding support. They're already over 40% RPS, and they're aggressively moving forward with energy storage and transportation electrification to further enhance grid reliability and resiliency. So I'm going to now turn it over to Stephen Johnston, SDG&E's Advanced Clean Technology Innovation Manager.
Great, thanks, Marty, and thanks, Zach. And thanks to everyone in the audience. It's great to listen to all the other speakers and to be invited to speak on behalf of SDG&E. So, as Marty mentioned, I'm the Clean Innovation Manager at SDG&E within the Advanced Clean Technology Group, and our name sort of says it all in terms of what our focus is. Next slide, please, Zach. So, for those of you not familiar with SDG&E, here's a brief overview of our service territory and some of the numbers that drive our business. And while you're looking at that, I'll just do some quick math for you. So the 190,000 solar customers, and that number's growing faster than we can track it. It'll be higher when I'm done with this sentence, but it's approaching 14% of our customers that have solar. And for EVs, that number is exceeded 3% a while ago, and we're approaching 4% of our meters that either have electric vehicle or solar. So I always, when I think of innovation at SDG&E, I always think of our current CEO, Caroline Wynn, back when I was hired when she was the Vice President of Customer Service. And she said at one award ceremony for innovation that, while SDG&E strives to be innovative, it's really our customers that are forcing us to be innovative. Our customers are adopting these technologies at record-breaking paces that we, as a utility, we don't have the option to do things the same way. We have to be innovative just to stay up to speed with our customers and with the policies that California is adopting. So that sort of describes my job too. My job is to stay on the leading edge of that innovation, work with groups like Cleantech San Diego and companies like the ones you've heard in order to drive both our service territory as well as all of California towards this future. Next slide, please, Zach. So our involvement with SCEIN, which Marty touched on, we participate in three main ways on the Technical Advisory Committee. We're involved in intake sessions. This is when, I guess you could say, candidate companies come and they talk to a very broad representation of the Energy Innovation Network, and they give their pitch as to why they should be involved. So we depending on what the company is, whether they are in clean transportation or maybe they're in some kind of building technology, or perhaps it's more of an engineering product, we send the right representative from SDG&E in order to listen to their business and advise SCEIN on whether they should be accepted or not. The second way we help is just providing technical feedback for any startup that's in the program, or even thinking about being in the program. As the utility, we see a whole bunch of issues that many startup companies that might only be a few people, maybe they just don't have insight to. So we can provide them with problems that maybe they should consider solving, or provide them with suggestions as to regulatory proceedings that may benefit them, because generally small startup companies also don't necessarily have the budget to support a regulatory person just to monitor all these proceedings. So we provide what I think is a wide range of helpful guidance to these companies as they're going through. And then the last main way that we participate, and this is a little bit more involved, is mentoring, where we can sort of be on the mentoring team, which is only generally a few folks from the entire Energy Innovation Network, that works with the company on a weekly to monthly basis to help connect them with services or funding opportunities or customers, or just anything that might help advance their company. And over on the right there, I'll just also point out that the Advanced Clean Technology Group, we're actively working to make a more sustainable grid. And every day California's grid just gets more and more renewable, which poses a lot of just great opportunities for us all, that everyone that likes to breathe air, but it also does pose a lot of challenges, which one of which is the number of devices that are now connecting to the grid and interacting with it. So next slide, please, Zach. So one of the companies that SDG&E is a mentor of is a company called Cubitech. And Cubitech, they do quantum cryptography, which is just a fascinating subject, which I won't go into here. But basically, all of those solar systems, all of those electric vehicles, now every phone that can touch into the grid, even if it's just receiving data, those are all potential cybersecurity threats to the grid. And as that 14% of our customers are now providing generation to the grid, on a sunny day when there's not much going on, maybe in the spring, that percentage can get to 20% or more. And the cybersecurity risk becomes real for nation state threats. So these are, potentially other countries that would intend to do harm to the United States and would like to attack our grid. All of those 190,000 solar systems that are now on the grid are potentially inroads for a nation state that wants to embed some dangerous malware or some kind of way that could, if they could shut down 10 to 20% of the grid with a cyber attack, that would bring the entire grid down. So it's something that SDG&E keeps a finger on the pulse of in terms of cybersecurity. And Cubitech, they started here in San Diego. They're San Diego based, and we were acting as a mentor, providing a lot of advice, providing connections to them. But they've actually gotten a lot of traction over in Tennessee. Tennessee is where, you probably know, the Tennessee Valley Authority, the United States government. It runs part of the electric grid out there. And they, because of the connections with the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, and the grid that's run out there in Tennessee, they've been able to get a lot of traction in terms of prototyping their technology and getting it adopted at customers. They've also received a number of small business innovation research awards. Really an astonishing number. They've got 6 active ones right now. So they've been really doing a lot of great work, and a lot of their technology is also suitable for some of the space communications and cybersecurity up in the satellite area. So they're a great company, and again, they're innovating in a way that is helping the industry as a whole, and it's great to be able to mentor them and to stay attuned to their progress. Next slide. So that's it. I'm happy to talk to anyone and everyone that is interested in driving the grid to cleaner and safer and more secure. So feel free to contact me at any time. And thanks again to Marty and the entire Cleantech team for putting this on.
Thanks so much, Stephen, and thank you for being just another one of our great partners that's helped not only Cleantech San Diego, but so many of our entrepreneurs. So again, to everybody, time process check, we're running a little bit late. We're going to be eating into a little of the Q&A time. So for our final 2 presenters, again, want you to tell your whole story, but if you can, just a little bit quicker. I'm going to have the bus speed now. And fortunately, we just have a 10-minute trip to the Port of San Diego. Next slide. And one of the other benefits of being a virtual tour is that I thought the photo that the port sent me at night looks even better than the port at day. So here we are at 11:37, and we've got a beautiful nighttime view of the port. And I'm now going to turn us over. In 2013, the Port of San Diego adopted a climate action plan, of which energy efficiency and transportation electrification are primary elements. Zach Birmingham and Rachel Stern not only have leadership responsibility for those key sustainability initiatives, but they are also the port's 2 key representatives on our technical advisory committee. So Zach and Rachel, it's all yours.
Thanks, Marty. I'll start off, and I think we might need to hop on a virtual boat to really see the whole Port of San Diego. So I'll give a brief intro to the port and mention a current CEC collaboration and innovation, and then Zach will detail more of our participation with the Southern California Energy Innovation Network. Next slide. So the port's responsibility is to manage the bay and tidelands on behalf of the citizens of the state of California in a manner that promotes commerce, navigation, recreation, and fisheries while balancing the uses of these areas. Our jurisdiction includes state tidelands here in orange, and also submerged tidelands that are in blue, and that's in and around the San Diego Bay. Our jurisdiction spans areas within our 5 member cities and measures up to approximately 34 miles of waterfront. So it might be a long boat ride today. While we're a strategic port, we have 3 marine terminals and substantial maritime uses. We also have a wide variety of other uses around the bay that we also manage, including parks, hotels, and hopefully, again, sometime in the future, many public events. We provide many public benefits by protecting and ensuring coastal access across tidelands. so visitors can enjoy being here at the port. As an environmental steward, the port has several programs focused on environmental protection, conservation, planning, and climate change. As Marty mentioned, we were one of the first ports to adopt a climate action plan. Next slide. One project we'd like to highlight is our microgrid project at our 10th Ave Marine Terminal, and that's been financed with almost $5 million in CEC funding. And our microgrid project combines energy efficiency site lighting improvements, 700 kW solar energy installation, nearly 1 megawatt of battery storage, microgrid controller, and electrical infrastructure improvements. In the event of an outage, we'll be able to ensure that power continues to be supplied to the critical infrastructure on our terminal. Additionally, we'll be providing increased energy resiliency and also provide significant reduction in GHG emissions annually. Just a quick update, we've recently closed the RFP for the battery storage and microgrid controller components, and we hope to award a contract soon. And one other, you can go back. One other program we'd like to mention is our Blue Economy Incubator, quite unique to a public sector entity. The Blue Economy Incubator acts as a launch pad for sustainable aquaculture and port-related blue technology ventures, and it removes barriers to early stage entrepreneurs, providing key assets and support services focused on piloting project and facilitating those pilots. To date, the port's invested $1.4 million to support this innovative pilot projects through the Blue Economy Incubator. We have approved 8 agreements with early stage companies to launch these pilot projects. This includes projects anywhere from shellfish, nursery operations, to copper remediation technology, a drive-in boat wash, a smart marina application, seaweed aquaculture, and even a new approach to soil remediation and marine environment. So a lot of exciting projects going on there. And I'll pass it along to my colleague Zach now with the next slide.
Thank you, Rachel, and I'll take us home here. So our participation in the Southern California Energy Innovation Network has been really beneficial to us. We've been working actively for about the last 3 years, attending the meetings, meeting with early stage companies, learning about what they do, and really kind of helping ourselves figure out the how behind some of these big ideas that float around the region. Some of the things we do are not only meeting with companies, but also small demonstration projects. And since I've been at the port, we've worked on real-time energy monitoring. We've demonstrated products of some of the SCEIN companies, particularly Primo Energy and their energy plant, which you saw a photo of earlier in the SDSU presentation. And we've also done an energy showcase where we actually brought some of these companies down to the port to present on some of their ideas to our general services team, which are the folks that would own and maintain that stuff and weigh in on the specs. So we had Primo Energy, Evolution Energy, and SenseOps down there for that. And coming up, we're going to be meeting with some more companies. We've got things going on with Cubitech, Nuvi, and GE&R, just to learn a little bit about what they do and continue to help us develop some new ideas. And Zach, if you go to the next slide, please. And just to kind of round things out, one of the exciting things we have coming up in the next few months, hopefully, is a demonstration project that we're working on with KIGT. We've been talking to Paul for just about a year now. We're working on getting an agreement together, which should hopefully come to our board soon. And hopefully we'll see 8 of those units Paul was talking about in our San Diego Convention Center parking garage in the next little while, which will again give us the chance to see the equipment in action in a limited capacity, but test drive it and then we can go out and see what we want to do long term. Next slide, please. And I'll go ahead and leave it right there because I know we're kind of moving into the Q&A session. I want to respect everybody's time, but thank you very much for having us, and we look forward to talking to you more if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Zach and Rachel, and a very, very special thanks to Rachel for actually referring Zach Dobbin to us after his period of employment with the port was done. It was just when we were looking, and they sent us just a super guy with incubator experience, finance experience, and he is off to the races. So thank you so much, Rachel and Zach. All right, one last trip on our virtual tour. We got to go back up north to Rancho Bernardo. And here you can see we're at the headquarters of EDF Renewables, North America, San Diego. You can just see right from the photo, they've got, they're a leader in microgrids. They launched their own microgrid, had a ribbon cutting back in February. They've got rooftop solar, they've got canopy solar, solar carport, battery storage in the bottom middle, and 42 level 2 EV chargers. EDF Renewables, actually, if you've been reading the recent trade journals, they've expressed their intent to be a leader in microgrids for the commercial and industrial market. And so many of our SCEIN companies have technologies that fit into that market. So it's my pleasure to introduce Brian Toe, EDF Renewables Director of Strategic Growth, to share highlights from their engagement with our SCEIN companies. Brian, I think you might be muted. Oops. Brian, you there?
I think you're still muted. Is your phone muted?
No, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you, Marty, and apologies for the interruption there. We can go ahead and flip on to the next slide. So as Marty mentioned, we are a San Diego-based company in North America, at least. If you go to the next slide, EDF is, you know, it stands for Électricité de France. It's EDF is the state-owned public utility company, electric utility in the country of France. And outside of that, they have competitive businesses, you know, in, I believe, about 30 countries globally. And EDF Renewables is the largest of those competitive businesses, where we're, you know, doing everything from large wind, both onshore, offshore, as well as large solar, as well as distributed solar batteries, EV charging. In North America, as I mentioned, we're headquartered in San Diego, but we have operations all over the place, you know, typically where you see large wind and solar farms located. If you go ahead and flip to the next slide, within San Diego, most of our involvement in San Diego has been on the distributed small scale side. So this is just an example of the projects that we currently have going on in San Diego. We have 3 operating right now, including the picture that you saw earlier, which was our headquarters here. We also have a battery at the zoo, and we have a large scale charging installation at Intuit's offices here. And then we have 3 what we'll call microgrids, although, you know, the definition of microgrid can vary. None of these are actually islandable, but some of them, I believe, are considering making them islandable. But it's, you know, solar storage and EV charging in a single location that are all being managed as one asset from what the grid sees. And we have recently won a contract to as well do a last mile distribution fleet charging installation that is here, but I don't think has been announced publicly. But that gives you a good idea of, I think, the kinds of activities we're doing locally here in San Diego. And next slide, please. So we've been involved for some time with Cleantech San Diego and SCEIN. We interact with a lot of the entrepreneurs that come through the program and try to bring a commercial and sort of technical rigor to you know, what those companies are doing through the program. And here's an example of a number that we have interfaced with on the right side of the slide. And, you know, we look forward to continuing to do that. And, you know, it has actually led to things that are very beneficial to us. If you go to the final slide here, a partner of ours who had come through the program is Nuvi, and we ultimately ended up making an investment in leading their Series A round back in late 2017. And that has further continued in the form of partnerships with our parent company in France and elsewhere in Europe. We've done some joint ventures with them, and it's been a good relationship that we've had with one of the entrepreneurs out of the program. Yeah, we look forward to continuing our support of the program and, you know, potential future opportunities.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian. All right, I know we are late on time. It says Q&A on the agenda, but there was a little bit left out. So Vice Chair Scott, I'd ask you, I think you can see my modus operandi, and you know I've saved the best for last. So I need 3 more minutes, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So we're gonna head back down to our Cleantech San Diego office in Little Italy. Just go back 1 second, Zach, just so that everybody notes. The other major benefit of this virtual tour is that this tour that we just took in 1 hour and 50 minutes was 530 miles and would have taken 9 hours and 20 minutes. So another benefit to our virtual tour. We also have to, next slide, thank MTS for loaning us their EV bus. And you can see we took it for 530 miles, so we got to recharge that bus and get it going. But now that you've gotten a feel for who we are and how we operate, I thought it would be appropriate to conclude with just a look at our KPIs and metrics, as we actually just celebrated our 4-year anniversary, July 15th. During this obviously very challenging economic period, first half of 2020, only 4 SCEIN companies had to reduce headcount by 14 FTE due to COVID. But in fact, Icarus RT and IV Energy hired 13.5 new employees. And then when you add the new companies, we actually had an increase of employment by 8% in first half of 2020. You'll see an asterisk there, and there's really an asterisk on all our metrics. They're all kind of understated because we've actually had 2 exits. I think Scott mentioned earlier, eMotorworks was acquired by NLX. CleanSpark actually went public on the NASDAQ and has doubled their market cap from 100 million to 200 million. Our key contacts have left there, and so we don't really have an accurate count now of the employment that those companies have grown and some of the other benefits. So again, everything I'm reporting to you is actually understated. In terms of C-level leadership, 24% of our SCEIN companies have women C-suite leadership, 33% minority C-suite leadership, 12% veteran C-suite leadership. In terms of outreach, just in the first half of 2020, we conducted 20 program events that touched over 700 regional stakeholders. Most notable are CalSeed and CalTestBed outreach, both in San Diego and Riverside. We continue to support and promote the Empower Innovation Network to become the statewide portal for everybody who's involved in any way in electric innovation across the state. And then Jason and I partnered with Eric Stokes and Katrina Lenny-Koenig to conduct 2 outreach sessions in this southern region of the state for the Next Epic Challenge. And then we also do run periodic surveys of our entrepreneurs at the intake process, at the 6-month reviews, and with mentors. And all of those surveys have show greater than 90% satisfaction by our entrepreneurs. And so finally, let's just take a look at the bottom line. If I can draw your attention to the lower left hemisphere that's in aqua blue, those 2 slices of the pie represent the amount of capital that SCEIN companies brought into the incubator before they joined. And you can see that that's a combined total of $76.9 million. The upper portion of the chart, the 2 light green, that is funds, follow-on funds raised since companies entered the scene. It adds up to 74.5 million, basically 100% increase in capital raised since coming to the scene. 4 years into the program, our total expenditures to date are 3.4 million. And so if you just do the quick math, you can see that we've got greater than a 20x ROI on the investment into this EPIC program. So while we congratulated the CEC on your vision in creating the state's energy innovation ecosystem up front, we hope that you can see through today's virtual tour, we've done our best to turn that vision into a reality. Thanks so much.
Wow. Well, thank you so very much. This was just a phenomenal tour. It's so exciting to hear from everybody on the line. I just want to tell you really quick, I have a hard stop at 12 because I have to jump on a call with the Secretary of CNRA and the Chair of the Energy Commission. Otherwise, I would ask us for like 10 or 15 more minutes to chat in a little bit more detail. I have a whole list of questions for all of the presenters, but maybe what I'll do is type some of those up and then we'll send them off and see if we can get some additional answers. And if people have a little extra time, just because I drop off at 12, please feel free to talk just a little bit longer if you want to, because it's such a wonderful gathering of folks. What I thought I might do is just throw out there, this is just such an exciting partnership, and it really is a wonderful set of projects. It shows, I think, the power of the smart strategic investment strategy that the Energy Commission folks put in place. And then, as Marty, as you mentioned, how you guys just took that and ran with it, right? And it's all across Southern California. So that's just so exciting to see. The last time that my team and I got to travel, we were in San Diego. Or at least for this next little bit, right? So we were down in San Diego at the port. The Energy Commission has a partnership with 6 of the major ports in California. San Diego hosted us at the last one, and so we were out there and got to see actually we saw the Flupsy, because we've seen a lot of the energy stuff lately, but so we saw Flupsies where you grow little oysters, which is pretty cool because that's how clean the water is out there now. I thought I had just 1 or 2 things maybe to flag for you all. There is a proceeding going on before the Public Utilities Commission on alternatives to diesel when we're looking at public safety power shutoffs and other things. And so there's tons of technologies that we heard about here today, and probably I'm sure others that might be useful to kind of follow that proceeding. Follow also the Integrated Energy Policy Report. Any thoughts or comments that you all have on that, we're happy to take that information in and use it as we're writing up our chapters. This year, the focus is mostly on microgrids, but I know that some of you have microgrids or technologies that fit into microgrids. And then maybe 2 questions if folks want to take a minute to try to answer them, and they're really large macro questions. So if you want to weigh in, great. If not, maybe I'll just leave that as our thoughts for today. But you know, there's 2 things that I'm thinking about. There's lots of things, but on this for COVID, what are things that the Energy Commission can be doing through our EPIC investments to help folks weather the COVID storm, if you will? One of the things we're aware of is that there's not as much discretionary capital in places, and even when folks do have discretionary capital, they might be holding on to it more tightly than they normally are. And so what does it take for us to unlock some of that? Are there other things that we need to do during these days of COVID to help unlock some of that? And then the other macro kind of thought that I had in this space is about jobs and the stimulus, right? And there are lots of technologies here that I think they just, they're infrastructure based, right? Whether it's wastewater treatment, it's bringing out the electric chargers, it's getting that solar deployed in a really smart way. And how do we work together to talk about that in a way that is exciting and also concrete enough that folks who are thinking about what should another jobs bill or another stimulus bill be thinking, right? And that we can demonstrate to them that the types of investments that you make in this space have huge returns. Maybe not all of them have the 20x ROI, but they do bring jobs, and they're jobs that have to take place right here in the United States are right here in California to get that done. And so those are two really kind of big thoughts, but we're thinking about that a lot when we're trying to think through how to strategically invest those EPIC dollars that we do have to just unleash the potential that's here. So I have like 90 seconds if somebody wants to throw out a thought on that. Otherwise, you know, if you want to send them to me or to my advisors or send a little note to Lori Tinhope, I would warmly welcome your thoughts in this space.
Jason Anderson, Jason and I can maybe pull back through, again, all of our key stakeholders here and see if we can provide some information on that. Because again, the bottom line now, solar, all these technologies, you know, the last recession a few years ago, it was more expensive to put these in, but right now it is less expensive. So you're not only, it's not only economic growth, but you're saving every customer that puts it in, they're saving money. And so we really do see Cleantech as a way to drive job growth and drive us out of the COVID economic slowdown, create jobs and save money, you know, triple bottom line, win, win, win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, in your spare time, if you need something to read, you know, the House Subcommittee on the Climate Crisis just released their report, and I don't remember the name, but there's 12 different pillars about how investing in the clean economy will drive economic growth. Obviously, they stole a lot of ideas from California. And I think we should go back as a state and look at that again and just make sure that we are investing in an appropriate way. And we're making comments in front of our federal delegation in addition to the statewide electeds that we have here. So I think it's a great question. I think, Marty, what we should do is poll all the folks on the phone here on our end and provide some feedback on specifics. Scott and others to provide to the vice chair to give her some appropriate feedback on those two questions.
Yeah, I think that would be really fantastic. I actually was fortunate enough last week, they had Congressman Levin, Bromley, what's her last name? Julia, and Jared Huffington. And it was pulled together by Senator Pavley over at, so UCLA and USC together. And so it was neat. I had a chance to read through, I just read the 12 pillars. I didn't, the short version, like the 4-pager versus the whole report, but there is a lot of interest in this space. And I think California has a ton of stories and really great examples where we can drop additional funds into California programs, but also a lot of these things are replicable across the United States as well, right? So, yeah, it's very exciting.
Marty, I don't know if you have any final kind of thank you comments, but Vice Chair, thank you so much for your time. Again, thank you for all the work that all the staff at the CEC is doing. It's an incredible partnership. We're very proud to be a part of it. So thank you for that. We're proud of all the companies we're working with. We're proud of all of our partners. We look forward to the continuation of this program, specifically the SCEIN program, and are so glad that the EPIC program is being continued by the PUC, as you noted earlier. So with that, I'll be quiet, and thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was a fantastic tour.
Thanks for joining.
Wonderful. Thanks for the partnership as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And again, I think in respect of everybody else's time and schedules, I think we'll call it at the end of a tour right now. If you have any questions, you're all welcome to send them to me. I mean, we did provide the contacts for everybody else there, so you can either go direct or go to me, and we'll make sure you get that connection and get your questions answered. Sorry we ran out of time, but yep, just had to complete the tour, make sure you saw everything that we had on tap. Didn't want to cut anything short.
Marty, before we head out, if I could have everyone turn on their cameras so I could get a quick group photo for our social media content later. Okay, and all right, everyone smile and hold it for like 10 seconds. Excellent, thank you, that's perfect.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for so much of your help. Eric, Anthony, Eleanor, thank you so much for supporting us and everything to get this far. And we just look to leverage everything that we've got going and the momentum to carry on.
Marty, keep sending us good stuff.
Absolutely, Adam. You know you're number one on my list.
Thanks to you, everybody.
Will do. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks, everybody.